All right, family. We live once again with the general. We got a powerful presentation today. We're going to be talking about Iran's new supreme leader will seek the ultimate revenge on America. This is really crazy news, family, that that you would attack Iran and allow the slain leader's son to become the next supreme leader, knowing this man got nothing but vengeance in his heart. you know uh this is real ridiculous. If you're not gonna fight and to annihilate, then why even start? Because this is not nobody you want to just up and start a fight with. You see, you don't just want to up and start a fight with some with a group like this unless you intend to win the fight. Obviously, they didn't intend to win the fight, or they're not giving us the whole story. Okay. Or they're not giving us the whole story. So we most definitely we got to see where we're going with this. We got to see where we're going with this. Donald Trump was saying that this was going to be unacceptable. Gonna be unacceptable. Well, I tell you what, they elected the man, they voted him in, and as of today, he's still there. I don't know if they intend to knock the man off or what. But you didn't started a fight with let me see where we at. You didn't started a fight. Okay, I see where I'm at. I didn't put the Okay, okay, I didn't put the yeah. Matter of fact, I see what I done did. I thought I was on one video. I'm on the other. That's right. I'm on the other video. That's right. Let me go and put them soldiers back there. That's the ones that should be back there. I'm like, where? I'm like, uh where is these soldiers? Yeah. Let me go and get these soldiers back here. The the Revolutionary Guard. Let me go and get them back there. Cause this who they up against. Now I know for a fact they ain't gonna just lay down. I know that for a fact. You understand? They've been warned over there. They've been warned over there for the last 50, 60 years or longer. You see, so they battle hardened soldiers. Okay, they are battle hardened soldiers. They not gonna lay down at all. You see, they don't have nowhere to go. The regime is the only thing they got, on the planet. And if they lose the regime, they have it ain't like they can go get a job, at the local Starbucks or something like that. You done been a revolutionary guard all your life, so ain't no way you gonna be able to just up and go get a job nowhere else on the planet. So that's that. So they're gonna ride or die for what they believe in. So the one thing that I know for sure is that if you're gonna attack these people, then you should do away with them, or they're gonna do away with you, because they're gonna want to seek revenge. That's a fact. They're gonna want to seek revenge, and you didn't let this man, and you didn't knocked off this man's father, and you let him become the new leader. Talking about, and you didn't knock, and so you didn't knocked off all these leaders. They claim they didn't knock off 49 some leaders, and yet and still, that's not enough, because every member of the regime, they believe in Iran, they believe in the Ayatollah, they believe in Shia Islam to the death. And so it ain't like, they're gonna bandage up their wounds, and they're gonna hit the battlefield once more. And so just knocking down some buildings, and because once you knocked off the leaders, you caught them by surprise. Many of them fled into the mountains. They fled into the, in various hidden underground barracks that nobody know where they at. They're just like when they went into Afghanistan. Many of them fled into the mountains, and they couldn't find a lot of them people. They was looking for Bin Laden in the Tora Bora Mountains, and the man was in Pakistan. It took them 2-3 years later to find the man, but they was in the mountains looking for that man, and that man then shook them, and it was in a whole nother. They knew about where he was, but they didn't know where he was. And so, and they was plotting and planning, and and came up another head, which was ISIL, and you had all these other splinter groups that came up, and so they not going away. I could tell you that, because when you understand, number one, Islam, they not going back on that. I can tell you that they're gonna fight to the death for it. That's just the reality. It is the ideology of that part of the world, and they gonna ride or die on that ideology. And they see the West as the great evil Satan, and and to many people, they the great evil Satan too. You see two great evil Satans. So, just let that be known, and so a lot of people just want to see them clash so they can, weaken each other, and maybe somebody else can get in and get on top somewhere. But to go and see, the thing is, we look at this, and I hear Donald Trump is saying that it's over. He's worse as George Bush when they went over there to Iraq that time, and and he was saying some of the same thing, that it was not over. It hadn't even begun yet. It hadn't even begun yet. If you think that's enough to stop, Iran, that's not enough. That's not enough. And so the thing is, as I was saying, in order for you to really, you got to put boots on the ground. See, that's where the tough skin come in, and see, what people really believe in, if they really standing on something that's sound. Because you got to put people's children in harm's way to go over there and finish the mission, if that's true. Now, the one thing I do know about Iran, and I've studied Islam a long time, Iran is a hard-nosed nation when it comes to Islam. Matter of fact, it's probably the hardest nosed Islamic nation over there, meaning they ain't going back. They ain't scared. They're gonna bang. The only other nation was Iraq, and you seen how they fought to the very end, and they still over there. You see what I'm saying? They was getting their licks in. It was very dangerous over there, especially when you got almost 100 million people. You got almost 100 million people. And so, that's hard to contain 100 million people. It's hard to contain 100 million people. And if they unified, in any sense of the word, it's going to be almost impossible to, you can go over there and do some things, but you're going to have to come up out of there sooner or later. You can't stay there forever. That's just like Iraq. You can't stay there forever, because they becoming more sophisticated. They learning your tactics. They let you come in, they let you roll in. That's what they're gonna do. The United States is too powerful in that sense, where they gonna stand up to them in the front, in a frontal assault. But they'll let them get in there, and once they get in there, and then they get, that's when they're going to start the real war. That's how it is with Iraq. So this right here is just, firecrackers going off. Yeah, it's blowing up some buildings. Yeah. But I'm quite sure Iran has anticipated, this attack. You know what I'm saying? This is just like a fire drill. You anticipate a fire, you go through the drill. Yeah, they're going to knock this out. But I'm quite sure they got some form of some reserves, and then you got Russia, and you got and Russia is weak. They are weak. They're weak. You see what I'm saying? Yes, we was hearing that Vladimir Putin was giving some intel to Iran, but he should have been giving them that before they knocked off the Ayatollah. But you understand, what good is the information when you come after the fact? You didn't let 2 generations of leadership get wiped out. So yeah, he gonna come in at the last minute, but they did seriously damage them for the time being. It was a very serious blow, but at the same time, quite sure they have anticipated this, and they got many other leaders that's ready to step in and assume that position. They already knew that the man's son was being groomed to take the position of Ayatollah anyway. You see? And so this is nothing but a continuation of the Crusades. And so that's why, if you got a long view of what's going on, this ain't nothing but the continuation of the Crusades. They've been fighting over that area of the world for, since, you talking about since 700 AD, since Muhammad come up out of there. 700 AD, they've been fighting over that land over there, the so-called Christendom, the Christians, and so it's been going back and forth, even over what they call Palestine. It was times when the Romans held Palestine. Matter of fact, they the one named it Palestine. Then here come the Arabs. Here comes Saladin and all of these other, and they would seize those areas, and then it would go back to the Christians and so on. And so they've been trading blows over who gonna be the top, big dog in the world, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And I don't see them, ever, settling because they are too radical. They too radical. Period. They both Christendom, which is a war machine hiding behind a religion, Islam, jihad, Iran envisioned a global Islamic empire. Do you understand that? I know what they talk about. They envision the world being Islamic. Okay, that's what they envision, with them being the heads of Islam. That's just it. The Ayatollah would be the head of all the world. So they got this global Islamic, a destiny that they dream about conquering the world, and so on and so forth. And the Christians do too. That's what they've been trying to achieve under all these murder cults that they call religions. And so yeah, so it is what it is. But at the same time, both of them are imperialist nations. That's what it is. And so it's just like seeing two boxers in the damn ring. You see, and you ain't got to be politically in alignment with any of them to see who gonna be the victor, or who likely to be the victor, and who likely to be, you understand, the one that take the L for the time being, unless they get a rematch. You see, and I believe that Donald Trump very well, he's not no military man. And so, and even what his name, Hedge Seth, he ain't really no military man like that. He like a frat boy. You see, he like a frat boy. He ain't no damn military man for real like that. And so, it would be very naive for them to underestimate Iran. Iran is not going nowhere. Okay, and if they believe that just blowing up some buildings, and man, listen here, Russia is gonna send some people down there to help them get them damn oil refineries back up running. They're gonna do that part. China gonna do it too. They're gonna get it because China is benefiting from Iran. China is buying 90% of Iranian oil. And because there's so many sanctions on Iran, they getting it dirt cheap. So they want that oil. So they'll most definitely send all type of engineers over there to get it back up and running. So I mean, I'm trying to see what the goal of Donald Trump is, because you don't go over and fight Iran for 2 weeks and think it's over. That's not that's too naive, man. That's too naive to believe that you think you're gonna knock Iran out in 2 weeks. You was in damn Afghanistan for damn 18 years. And you know what I'm saying? You was in Afghanistan for almost 20 years. I was in Iraq for over 10, close to 15, I believe. So what would make them think that Iran, which is as powerful as Iraq, they probably were equally as powerful, and you believe that you just going in 2 weeks, and you ain't even killed no soldiers for real. You done blew up some buildings, but the majority of the Republican Guard is still functioning. Yeah, you knocked off the heads, but they trained for that. You know what I'm saying? They always got somebody that's ready and able to assume those positions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You really, you got cats that's willing and ready to fill them positions. Well, it ain't even about stopping bricks. Bricks ain't nothing. Bricks ain't nothing. Bricks ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Bricks ain't going nowhere because first and foremost, United States is still the major when you talk about ships out there, they control the waterways. That's just what it come down to it. You know what I'm saying? So bricks, it's bigger than that. They know that it's gonna come down to some form of an altercation with China and possibly United States, possibly Russia. And so, they are getting ready for that war. They softening up and they tenderizing a lot of the smaller affiliates. BRICS is over with. BRICS ain't, how in the hell is BRICS gonna get off the ground? And Russia economy is totally in shambles, and they spending damn near 50% of their damn GDP on the military. So Russia ain't in no predicament to battle the how. How is you talking bricks? And Iran is selling they oil to damn China for damn dirt cheap. So they got to cut their wealth in half because ain't no other nations is buying from Iran. You know what I'm saying? So that the bricks is really, that's fabrication to me. You understand what I'm saying? That's fabrication to me. India, you got India, Brazil. Now just think about it with the Venezuela thing. That right there then really crush everything in the Western Hemisphere, because Venezuela was really the gas station for the majority of the Western world. Shit, I mean, let's be real. So once they took Venezuela right there, that was like knocking over, a king on the board at that time. You see what I'm saying? You didn't knock down a major piece when they took the Panama Canal. I mean, what you gonna get out of that? Ain't no bricks. You got to control the waterways in order to really control the economy. And you look at the economy, the GDP. Russia is, I mean, you could put damn near bricks together. And if you just take China out now, with China in, yeah. But the rest of them, South Africa, Russia, Brazil, India, you could put them together and their economy still ain't matching the United States. That's just reality. That's just reality. When you look at the GDP. So yeah, yeah, they trying to get them a little back door, but that's over with. That's not going nowhere. That's not going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the season of Venezuela, and I don't know what they're gonna do with Iran. I don't know what they're gonna do with Iran. It's gonna be a fight to the death to really, conquer a nation like that. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to put some boots on the ground. That's for sure. And so I don't know what Donald Trump is really talking about, because he ain't beat Iran just blowing up some buildings and knocking off some the head. That's not gonna happen, because they mujahideen. You see what I'm saying? They ready to, they love this shit. You know what I'm saying? This is what they live for. I mean, they believe they gonna die and, in battle and go to, what is it called? Gehenna, and they got all these dreams. And so they love it. They bout it. Anytime you get a man that are willing to strap bombs on his body and don't care, and shit, you messing with somebody crazy. But it don't mean, I mean, you just got to know that these little couple strikes on Iran is not enough to topple that regime at all. I know that for a fact, that this is only getting, and then to and I mean, and leave from over there. You didn't knock this man's father off. You didn't knock this man's father off, and you think he ain't gonna want to avenge his father? Oh, hell no, that don't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't, you didn't shook up a beehive. So in no way that you gonna take that take that country, or at least at the minimum, you if you want to see what they got in there and really destroy it. But if you destroy it, what is going to, and listen to me, when you destroy infrastructure, you cannot just up and replace it overnight. It would probably, take them years, to get back where they was. It would take literally years. I mean, you could imagine, even in a hurricane, if a strong hurricane can tear a lot of stuff up, even a hurricane. So you could imagine what bombing and, and just strategically bombing all kind of areas. You could about imagine what kind of destruction that is doing. And if you look at even in Gaza, what Gaza looked like after the Israelis didn't bomb that, it's like rubble. You know what I'm saying? So imagine rebuilding like that. You know what I'm saying? But Russia and China could, if they wanted to, they could probably get in there and rebuild it. It still would take years, even with them, to rebuild it. You see, but that don't make a difference, because they all right with that. They all right with that. They're willing to come back from that, and still keep their ideology and still be a threat. So, I'm hearing Donald Trump talking about it's over, and I don't think he really believes that. He got to be really naive to believe that Iran is going to give up on these few strikes. And I know they over there bombing, and we don't know the extent of, the bombings. We don't. I do see some things going up over there now. That's for sure. They are taking a serious pound, and that's for sure. But in order to beat Iran, you're gonna have to put boots on the ground. You're gonna have to go knock some doors down for real and see where they really hiding that stuff. You can see things, but after a while, they're gonna quit. Even, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna quit. They're just gonna keep what they got. They're gonna keep it hid. They're gonna let the United States get away from there, and then they're gonna rebuild, and they're gonna rebuild under. And if they're gonna keep going over there, but ain't no telling if Russia or China liable to lace them with something. And if they do, see, the thing is, if they do, that's going to automatically start a war with the United States and whoever, because Russia even said the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Certain stuff that, and they know the United States give them, and it's tit for tat, and so Russia could do that. But very seriously, because Russia already bogged down in a war, and they need everything that they got for the war they in. So you got China, there you got China to see, and I doubt very seriously, because China and America are the biggest, the two biggest trading partners, and so why would they throw away, the biggest trading partner for Iran? So they gonna have to take that on the chin. They're gonna have to take that one on the chin. You feel what I'm saying? But anyway, family, I don't know why this man would if you don't intend to finish the regime, don't go in there, because why do I say that? Because they're gonna want to have a really hell of an event, a revenge moment. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna threaten the mainland United States. Believe me, they're gonna have some firecrackers go off in a major way. They're gonna be their intent. So, leaving them out there, as a threat, to the United States, and start that war without finishing. And what does it mean to finish them off? What does it mean to finish them off? Well, if you're going, you got to make sure the regime is really been defeated. The regime is not defeated. You're going to have to go in there and punish that revolutionary guard. You're going to have to decimate that guard. That's the only way you're going to say you defeated that regime. I believe it's about 200,000 of them, or about that number. That's a number that they keep throwing. They got two different factions. They got the Revolutionary Guard, and then they got their regular military. Now, the Revolutionary Guard is particularly the bodyguards of the Ayatollah. You see what I'm saying? And then you got the regular body, the regular army. And so that's they crack troops. That's the Revolutionary Guard is the ones that's really gonna keep that regime in there. You feel what I'm saying? So as long as they in there, the regime is still breathing. You see what I'm saying? They still, and so now they didn't elect it, and Donald Trump saying whoever is elected, that they should go through him. Well, they didn't go through him. They didn't go through him. So right now he's saying things, and they'll define him. They'll define. So they have elected, and I'm quite sure they got the man head. They intend on knocking him off. But even if they do, they still got somebody in line after him that's really ready to step in. And these is hardliners. He ain't the only one. He's not the only one. They're going to step right on in, fill that position, and they're going to move forward. So the only way you're going to really get in there is put boots on the ground, and you're going to have to decimate that core Revolutionary Guard. That's it. And that's going to it's going to be some bodies. That's it. It's going to be some bodies. You're going to have to put soldiers on the ground, and you looking to, because they are capable of fighting. They've been fighting a long time, and so you take some young cats, and America got some soldiers now, but I don't know if these younger guys, if they even I don't know. Now, if you would have went back when, you talking about when they was, you still had the soldiers in there from the Iraq war, and you had Afghanistan. Them guys probably in, older now. You know what I'm saying? They probably more in leadership position. But these younger guys, they ain't really, them guys over there fighting every day. You know what I'm saying? They making preparation every day. So I don't know. I don't know. And so, but I tell you what, remember that I told you this. So yeah, we're gonna move forward, family. We got some fire. We dropping tonight. I want you to check it out, family, because there's some things that they're not talking about. Let me get this in here. Let me get this in here. That's right. We're going to be talking about the Chinese narcotic assault on the USA. We're going to be talking about that, and why are we talking about that? Because Donald Trump been talking to Mexico, letting them know they have designated the Mexican cartel as terrorists, and they know that the Mexican cartel is pushing the majority of the fentanyl and the fentanyl lace synthetic drugs into the United States. And so they say, and China is selling them not the fentanyl, but the ingredients to make the fentanyl. You see what I'm saying? They trying to, cover their tracks. And so they understand what they do. And I'm going to show y'all why China is doing, because of course they want to destroy the United States from the inside, but is already very similar what the British did to the Chinese in the early 1900s, because they had what they call the Opium Wars in China, where the British was actually selling opium to the Chinese and had, where it was forced on them. You understand what I'm saying? But they created something like 10 million heroin opium addicts in China, and it is referred to as the age of humiliation. You see what I'm saying? Where they decimated China, they took Hong Kong and all them other cities in that same process. And so they remember that. They remember that when they all of that selling the opium to their people. And it looks as if they're doing the exacts in reverse. They know the devastation that can create on the population, the flood, narcotics in there. They know the devastation because they didn't went through it. So it looks as if this is what they're trying to do to the United States as a revenge tactic. You see, it is what it is. It is what it is. But we got the other joint. Where is that? Here it is. That's right. We got the other one. This one, we doing both of them tonight. We're going to break it down into segment, the fentanyl epidemic, Chinese revenge for the opium wars. And so this is going down tonight, man. Look, do not miss it, because we got documentation that you probably will never hear about this documentation unless you hear tonight. You feel what I'm saying? So check it out, family. I'll see y'all in a minute. You say Russia also never ran through Africa either, bro. Don't make no damn difference. I ain't in here trying to ride no damn imperialist Russian or any European. Okay, sorry. You got the toasts one way or another. I'm not on nobody's side, but I'm most definitely not trying to big up no damn Russia. I could tell you that. You see what I'm saying? A European is a European. So get that out of you. You know what I'm saying? You got the toasts, and and if you need help, let me know. We can get you something. Might have to get you on one of them Khalid Abdul Muhammad diets, and where you had to fast, and you know what I'm saying? Get on that Garvey, man. Quit doing that. Don't come in here one way or another. I just lay it out as it is. You see, looking at the strategy on both sides. This is military school. And so we looking at the strategy from both sides. We ain't taking no side, but I tell you what, if the bombs flying, I tell you what, I'd rather them fly over there than fly over here any goddamn day. And I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart. You see, my people over here. So when it comes to that point where bombs get to fly, I wouldn't give a goddamn about nobody outside of the jurisdiction of the United States when it come down to that. Yes, we understand this European is doing some crazy shit. All of them is doing crazy shit all over the world. There's no European exempt. None of them. All of them had their hand in Africa. Russia is just as big as an imperialist. I mean, half them damn nations over there then broke away from Russia today. What the hell is y'all talking about? The Soviet Union? The Soviet Union had colonized damn near half the damn Asian damn continent. So for people to come in here and forget that, and China had its imperialist age too. Japan had its imperialist age. Japan had conquered China, Korea, Philippines, had went over there and brutally did all type of things to them. And they still talk about it to this day. Korea don't want none. They don't even want to have sometimes diplomatic talks with Japan on what they did in World War II. Russia took land from China. They still, they allies, but China want that land back. You feel what I'm saying? Russians beat up on Chinese when it was to their benefit. Huh? Yeah, you didn't know that? So, when you start talking, you get it together. Now get the whole story. Don't start in the middle of the book or the last 3 goddamn chapters of the book. Read it from the damn beginning. And when you understand it from the damn beginning, then you don't leave no damn European out. You see, all of them has something to do with imperialism, because you can even go before Russia, because the Russians are a Germanic tribe. Okay, they Vikings, the Rus. They come out of the Vikings, and so we can even go before they even touch down over there. They come up out of Denmark, Finland, and Switzerland. You didn't know that, but I could tell you that. You don't even know. You got to go to the very beginning of where they came from. You see, before it was Russia, it was Kiev. Yeah, Ukraine is the mother of Russia. That's what the first Russian capital was, Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. You didn't know that. So if you don't know the whole story, don't start at the end of the damn story thinking you talking to a novice, because I know the whole story. Okay, all right. All right, family. All right. All right. That's right. Say they're that's right. Using them in Africa, right? In the Ukraine war, right? Somebody, man, would y'all please tell these people? Yeah. Yeah, got them over there and brought them, trying to be, they sending their soldiers to go over there to fight in Ukraine. Yeah. Yeah. All right, family. I'll see y'all in a minute. Stay tuned. We got some more fire. We coming right black. All right, arm yourself with knowledge. Get over there to Patreon, hit that link, and get over there to get that fire. Yeah. 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 I see y'all y'all listening. Yeah, they listening. Yeah, they listening. All right, family. I'll see y'all in a minute. Black Pop.